The Black Phone, directed by Scott Derrickson, who also directed the first Doctor Strange and the first Sinister film. This guy's been popping a lot of cherries. And this movie is based on the short story created by Joseph King, aka Joe Hill, known as Stephen King's son, who also actually had a lot of his work adapted to the screen at this point. I mean, the guy has been out here making his mark for sure. But anyway, so The Black Phone follows Finney Shaw, a shy but clever 13-year-old boy who's being held in a soundproof basement by a sadistic masked killer played by Ethan Hawke. But after being held captive, Finney discovers that he's able to talk to the murderer's previous victims through a disconnected phone on the wall. So this movie feels like a mixture between The Lovely Bones and Sinister, and I feel like there's something else, but honestly, it really doesn't matter. That's close enough. See, yeah, this definitely isn't a new concept, but that actually doesn't matter because movies like these are proof that it's really all about the execution of a film. It doesn't really matter how many times a similar plot has been rehashed. It's all about the execution. The Black Phone honestly has a perfect setting for a story like this. I mean, it takes place back in the 70s when technology and cell phones weren't really as prominent. And back then it was a normal thing for young kids to ride their bike or walk to school who lived several blocks away, even roam around the neighborhood or the city late in the afternoon without much adult supervision. I mean, yeah, I'm not from the 70s, but I've heard enough stories. So it should go without saying, but these were basically the perfect conditions for child murderers around that era. And this movie really uses those conditions and takes advantage of it to tell this very unsettling story. But let's lay out some basics real quick regarding the plot for this film. So we're following 13-year-old Finney Shaw, who's a kind-hearted kid that's basically a pushover and doesn't really stand up for himself. And he deals with the normal shit that most average teenagers tend to deal with, like girls and bullies and family issues, etc. But eventually the kids around his neighborhood begin to come up missing due to a murderous psychopath that kidnaps kids in broad daylight using the most suspicious looking vehicles seen throughout the movie. But seriously though, before we continue, I actually have a quick hot take. Some people are probably gonna come for me, I really don't give a shit. I gotta get this out. So here's the hot take. So why in the hell is it so difficult to catch a guy who abducts kids in a black van in broad daylight in the middle of a neighborhood? Why? I mean, he wasn't always in the middle of neighborhoods doing this, but usually he's in the middle of a neighborhood snagging these kids. I mean, seriously, the cops in this movie really struck me as useless pieces of shit. The residents of this neighborhood really weren't shit either. I mean, a lot of the time throughout this movie, it felt like these kids just lived in a damn ghost town where only them and the serial killer existed. And I felt like I had to suspend disbelief a couple times because the frequent abductions just seemed too unrealistic to a certain extent for me. Like if something was happening that often, people would start to keep a lookout throughout their neighborhood. But in this film, everyone just seems to try to go back to their normal life, although kids are frequently still being abducted. Now, I don't think the movie really went into how far apart these abductions were, but it seems like they were pretty close together. Like all of this happened within one span of like a short period of time. That's what it seemed like, maybe like a week or a couple weeks apart, but it just seemed too unrealistic for me. But that's just my hot take on it. You guys can let me know if you agree or disagree down below. I would like to hear your thoughts. But even with that hot take, I gotta say that I still very much so enjoyed The Black Phone. Ethan Hawke was phenomenal throughout this movie. I mean, his sinister performance was one of the creepiest aspects of this film. And did you guys see what I did there with the sinister thing? Whatever. Plus, this isn't him and Scott Derrickson's first time working together. So the chemistry just made sense when you see how everything translated on screen. Also, really great performances by the kid actors as well, especially the girl who played Finney's sister, Gwen Shaw, played by Madeleine McGraw. She is the number one comedic relief throughout this movie. She might even be the smartest character throughout the movie as well, you know, besides Ethan Hawke's character. I mean, she was really fucking funny. She was awesome. And the supernatural moments throughout this movie were used very sparingly and very strategically. And like they really didn't overdo it with the ghostly stuff. Like they only really brought it up when it was required for some sort of important plot development point throughout the story. But besides that, there really wasn't any random jump scares. Like anytime there was any sort of ghostly appearances throughout the movie, there was usually a major reason for that. And honestly, I really appreciated that with their execution. But like I said earlier, this movie sort of put me in the mind of like The Lovely Bones. But Scott Derrickson sort of added that creepy old VHS footage look to this film as well. And that mashup was honestly pretty dope. So I'm giving The Black Phone an 8.5 out of 10. This is really a damn good movie, and I wish I would have seen it like a year ago when it originally premiered at Fantastic Fest. But hey, I've seen the movie now, and I can definitely tell you guys that it is absolutely worth the wait. But The Black Phone officially releases this Friday, June 24th. So yeah, go check that shit out, man. Come back here, let me know what you thought about it. But there you have it, and if you enjoyed the content, you know exactly what to do. Thank you guys for watching.